Once more, we venture to Folkestone to visit and catch up with Elie from South East Coastal Defence, who has seen an increase in channel crossings since our recent Brexit departure. I return with Street and Alexander Sangmoore to hear how things have progressed since last we spoke, and to investigate whether extreme events that threaten national security, like we are seeing plague Europe, could affect us by an unannounced, soft, illegal invasion.
For those that recognise it, that's the Grand Burstin, where I've asked them if they're still housing refugees, where they lied to me. But we're about to turn down this road. Elie, what is it you say occasionally happens down this road, which is directly behind the hotel?
Algerian and Albanian gangs stab each other.
On this road here, do they?
Though, if you look over to the left there,
yeah, stop. Yeah.
A lot of them, a couple of years ago, there were 7 people stabbed on this road.
Yeah.
They're driving along.
Okay.
In one night.
In one night?
Yep.
This is the back of the Grand Burstin, which has housed newly arrived migrants for years. We have found cases of customers being angered by migrants dating back to 2014. Their management lied to myself when I asked their reception if it had been happening recently in a previous visit. Cases of extreme violence have been known to occur behind the building, which could become worse and endanger locals further if not addressed. The hotel seems to have no issue in causing risk to the local community. It is clear the council are well aware of the situation, so only you can voice concern when those we entrusted to look after things will not, and your shoreline is unprotected.
A significant starting point that I'd like to begin with is how have your views been shaped over time by the kind of responses that you've received? The negativity, the apathy, the name-calling, the harassment, the cyber lynch mobbing, etc. You have noticed that there are vested interests that are put in place to try and silence people like yourself, like us, like others who are trying to speak the truth and spite the devil, against people who are trying to destroy the foundations of our nation, primarily borders in this case scenario. How have your views changed over time, if at all, and what are the most important things that you've learned throughout this entire endeavour of setting up southeastern coastal defence and so forth?
My views haven't changed at all. I mean, I started Southeast Coastal because I got sick to death of seeing illegals basically being allowed into the country, and because this is happening on my part of the coast in Kent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you think that the utmost priority should be holding to account those who are supposed to ensure the security and safety of Britons in their own nation? The government is put in place such that it provides security for the people. We pay them money, taxes, such that they secure the border, and there are certain elements within the government and surrounding the government that aren't doing their job. Should they all be fired yesteryear?
Yes and no, but yes, because now we've actually left the EU. Yes, they should absolutely be held accountable. And to be fair, as much as I'm no fan of the government, they couldn't do very much about it all the time we were members of the EU. Now that we have, well, we're getting back control, then yes.
They were being dragged down by swamp creatures that have infiltrated the institutions over the last 3 to 4 decades. If they're not doing their job, the very, very least that we and hopefully the majority of Britons can do is to openly speak out against it, not in a vitriolic, hateful or prejudiced or bigoted or whatever way, but when it comes to the security of borders and illegal smuggling. I don't have any problem with them coming over legally and with permission, but when it comes to human smuggling, which is illegal, which has multiple criminal groups associated with it, we don't want that in the country, and we shouldn't allow it to happen. There's bollard things that are laced in major cities throughout the country. those have only been erected due to a particular and specific kind of problem that has been imported to Britain and hasn't existed prior. So they're the kind of band-aid, I would say, to a much larger issue that should be dealt with over time. What's your perspective on this?
I think it's really, really sad that they've had to be erected at all. You know, that they are literally
monuments to political correctness, though, right? They literally stand testament to the fact that the people in charge want to put a band-aid over the problem rather than address it.
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
And imagine how much taxpayer money is being wasted on the 13,000 or so being monitored consistently in Britain. It's really quite a... I mean, Merkel said that multiculturalism has failed, as did David Cameron, and yet Merkel is still shipping them over, and the EU is actively promoting the policy of the illegal migration into Greece, and they're sending militia there, right?
Yep.
Have you noticed this in the news, that they've actually sent militia there to try and quell public uprisings? So the idea is that they want to force mass migration on people. And the only correct response to this is to hold their feet and ankles to the fire with public pressure, right? What do you think is the most effective way to cause pressure to the authorities that have A, neglected their duties over time when it comes to illegal migration, and B, are actively promoting it through NGO funding and logistical support? How do we deal with the heart of the situation?
The only thing that I can see that might possibly make any difference is for millions of us to take to the streets. You know, I mean, everybody's sitting at home moaning and moaning about what's going on and doing absolutely nothing. And it's getting worse and worse and worse by the day.
I see. So, what are your plans going into this year and next year when it comes to Southeast Coastal Defence? What are the things that your organisation, do you think, would help most with either raising public awareness or getting the policymakers to be compelled towards the correct decision making, which is defending our national territories, our borders, etc.?
Well, we basically need more people to get involved. Do you know what I mean? There are so few, and you guys have come down from, you know what I mean? It took you 2 hours to get here, for goodness sake. Locals are just oblivious.
Well, here's the thing. I believe that you don't necessarily need an overarching solution because it's a long-term problem, right? So, as far as I'm concerned, we need more people similar to you who are actively both investigating this, reporting on it, letting people know that there are dangers associated with it, and causing sufficient concern to the authorities that this is not an issue whereby people will be cowed into submission or be made silent. In Britain, there is a massive, massive stigma, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to speaking out against mass migration, illegal migration, etc. The leftist media, they try to use emotional blackmail and psychological terrorism on a consistent basis. What have your experiences been with either the media or their affiliated parties trying to silence you, insult you, demean you, harass you, cyber lynch mob, etc.? How bad has it been over the course of the... How long have you been, by the way, working on this campaign?
November 2018 I set up Southeast Coastal, and that was when there were 17 Iranians turned up in boats all by themselves from France overnight, and I just lost it. It really, really upset me, and that was why I decided that somebody had to do something.
Once again, I'm lucky enough to be down on the coast with Elie from Southeast Coastal Defence. Once again, we're going to point over to France, and we're hoping that if we zoom right in, this camera will pick it up. Now, we're still calling it France at this point. They'll probably have a new name soon. I better not name it for the sake of political correctness. So once again, I'm with Elie. Thank you for joining us again, Elie.
Thank you for coming.
Alex is also with us, who's been lucky enough to speak to Elie, haven't you, Al?
Howdy.
So, Elie, since we last spoke, we left the EU.
Yep.
It's got worse.
Yep.
How bad?
It's the immigrants are still coming in left, right and centre. The last 2.5 weeks or so, because Mother Nature has been so beautiful, she stopped them because of all the high winds. They haven't been able to come over. But because we've now got this ridiculous transition period until the end of December, this summer is going to be
I'm
an
sick of the word
absolute...
transition.
Yeah, me too.
I'm tired of the word transition.
They are going to flood the country as soon as the weather starts improving. No question.
You sent me videos immediately after Brexit. We saw, bang, you know, there was clearly fear factor language going on among the camps. There was clearly people saying, now's your chance, now or never.
Yep.
And you've seen that physically, because as soon as it happened, I was getting double the videos from you.
Yep.
And the helicopter was out more often. The lifeboats are out more often.
Yep.
And do you think that it's actually just going to intensify as the months go on? There's not going to be a reprieve where the Coast Guard come in and say, well, we've left now, we let you have a few months, stop. Do you believe that this is going to intensify to the point of some sort of 28 days later looking beach?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is no question whatsoever. I mean, you know, in the summer, we get more and more anyway. But now that we've actually left the EU and the so-called transition ends at the end of December, they are literally, as you say, you know, the people smugglers are literally running out of options to make money. Because hopefully Priti Patel will do what she says she will do and sort the borders out.
Well, at this point, they're very wealthy.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, God, yeah.
Can you imagine the trades, heaven forbid, we did stop immigration. They've got so much money now for an entire new venture of crime, you know, black market crime. God knows, it'll be heroin, it'll be... I mean, if they're willing to traffic adult men into our country with God knows what... They're doing the same to children. I mean, people are a financial commodity to them.
You've hit the nail on the head there, though, Vin, because they are men that are coming over. You know, the women and children, as we've said a million times before, are not with them. So these people are coming. I mean, look at all of them at the Turkish border at the moment. 13,000 reported this morning.
I was scouring the crowds for one woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure there's got to be some there, but I couldn't find them personally. If you see them, then send them to us. But I could not see any women. And also, what I am seeing is projectile missiles, Molotov cocktails, not behaviour indicative of people that are seeking refuge. You know, if I was to go and ask my mate for a tenner, I wouldn't punch him in the face first. And also, technically, if Britain was invaded, if in the 40s Germany had smashed us to bits, the last country in the world that I would personally move to is the country I'm blaming for my demise. It's like the ultimate of capitulation. It's like saying, so if we go to war with Japan and Japan annihilates us, we all move to Japan. It's like not only surrendering, it's complete capitulation. But yet we have this continuous body of people coming to their oppressor's land. What are the locals' opinions months on since the last time we spoke to each other?
Still exactly the same. They don't believe it's going on. They literally do not believe it. And
but there's helicopters all the time.
Yeah, but it's because when the immigrants are coming over here, they're being sent apparently to the Croydon Immigration Centre, and then they're being sent up north. They are not staying in the local area, and that's why people in this area are so apathetic.
Because all the videos you send me are around here.
Yeah.
So that's where they're coming in, because it's the shortest distance, clearly. The safest distance. And obviously, and we can see great big oil rigs travelling across the channel quite clearly. It's not that dangerous in summer, I imagine.
Oh, it is. The English Channel,
I know the channel is dodgy, but I mean, in comparison with right now...
Oh, no.
They could double, triple the numbers.
Easily. And they will.
Because last summer's was bad enough, but imagine where we're going from here, is what I'm saying. The upcoming summer, you could borderline get people, you know, making it on their own makeshift dinghies.
That's the whole point, though. This is what people don't understand. You know, we've got all these idiot bleeding snowflake lefties, you know, bleeding hearts, who, oh my God, those poor people, they're coming all the way across in those dinghies. No, they're not.
No.
They are not. We know for a fact that the French Coast Guard and the French fishermen are bringing them into British waters, and our emergency services are risking their lives. I mean, Christ, a couple of weeks ago we had our emergency services, the RNLI, were out in the middle of the channel, in the middle of the night, in high winds, because illegals were coming over.
And their life is worth getting here so much that they send our servicemen into the sea, where they could be swept away, anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're so worth getting over here, not getting back there, that they're willing to... Personally, me, it would have to be a family member or someone, you know, very important for me to go out there in the middle of the night.
We had, a couple of months ago, there was some illegals coming over, and they were picked up by the French Coast Guard, and they flatly refused to go onto the French Coast Guard vessels because they didn't want to go back to France. They were literally kicking up merry hell in the middle of the channel
until the British turned up.
And they were still in French waters, and the British Coast Guard had no choice but to go over there and get them.
Well, they did have let's not confuse it. They did have a choice.
Yeah.
And that's the defining factor, because can you imagine how easy it is for the Navy to protect 20 miles of sea?
It's not.
You could have 2 frigates sat there, job done.
Yeah.
That's it. You don't need an armada to defeat this issue.
No, of course not.
I mean, me personally, I pay tax for all these things I don't care about. Take a tenner off me a month to stick the Navy there, I'll quite happily oblige.
Yep.
Even though you don't need to, because I can find tens of things to stop funding.
Yep.
You know, whether they be religious or, you know, culturally diversive things that are relevant in the most culturally diverse country on the planet. I could take millions or billions out of other regimes, LGBT marches, and that HSBC will have a float worth the same as the hotel behind me. You know, so I'm sure that there's plenty of cash to go about to police that piddly little stretch of land. That this time, however many years ago, tens and tens of thousands of us lined up along this coast. You know, there wouldn't have been a German slipping past us.
No.
But all of a sudden, you know, with our helicopters, with our radar, with our military technology, we just either miss these people or assist them.
And the thing is as well, what a lot of people, even the lefties, don't seem to understand is that these people coming over do not want to come to Britain to be British. They do not want to come here because they want to integrate. They want to come here to bring their culture.
Well, they're told they don't have to integrate.
Well, yeah, exactly.
They're told among the communities that there's a life there that will appeal to you.
Yeah.
Which is obviously true, to a degree.
Yeah.
It is certainly a safe place for someone that's come from a war-torn country to come and sort of forget all their woes. I mean, we don't know what they've done.
No, that's the whole point as well. And more so now with this whole coronavirus thing, these guys are not being health checked. You know, there are no police backgrounds being done, no criminal record checks. We have no idea who these people are. And all we keep seeing in the media is that all the British Coast Guard and the government care about is preservation of life. What they should care about is who are these people, where have they come from, what have they done?
Preservation of life. It was like, what was it, 3 weeks ago that a school had to lock down because there was refugees walking about outside of the school.
Yeah, that was
so
in
what
Dover,
about the
just
life of anyone in there? I mean, I consistently find and post videos of refugees beating white women consistently in France, in Holland, in Belgium, and here. And it's as if it's a bigoted thing, because a lot of these people will talk among themselves, it's my chance to beat up a Western individual. So is the life of the children in that school, which has to shut down, they wouldn't shut down if they were safe.
No, of course not.
They wouldn't shut down if there was no fear of some horrific third world style incident happening.
Of course it wouldn't.
So is it safe to say that unless viewers, unless outside people, entities outside of this looking in assist, your council and your people would rather see you in the middle of the sea?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's face it, the only people on the planet who are racist are white Brits.
Well, apparently so. I mean, obviously I've engaged in many online debates and discussions, and when you say to them, well, that's not fair, they say, well, no, white people are inherently racist.
No,
That's the way to avoid when you point out examples of Barbary slave trade or these other things. No, we're inherently racist. Well, that's fine, and you shouldn't really want to be here if that's the case. You know, I certainly wouldn't want to go to any of these countries that are said not to be racist, because I know they'll chop my head off.
The Independent did an article a few days ago saying that there were hundreds of thousands of Muslims leaving Britain because Britain is so racist and because of Brexit.
Al Jazeera. I saw that the other day. I put a post up of Al Jazeera blatantly lying, saying they've left because of racism, they felt unwelcome. No. No.
This was the Independent, but yeah.
I was, I think it was The Guardian, and it was, sorry, Al Jazeera. And they were just utter claptrap about how the West didn't make it comfortable enough for them. Can you imagine Russia? Can you imagine China making things comfortable? What I want to know is how many holidays are being booked to North Korea this time of year. And then we'll make a rough comparison. So, before we end our little chat here, once again I'll ask you, what is the most important, apart from obviously a website and things like that, what is the one most important thing that you wish men would do?
Oh God, I actually wish that the men in this country would get off their backsides and sort out these grooming gangs first and foremost.
Well, as we know, there are things put in place to stop you long before you get there.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, down along the coast, we need bodies. And as I said to you, locals are just not interested because they can't see it. You know, those people we were just talking to all the way from Essex, they can see it. You know, we just had a great chat with them and they're very much on the same page as us. But as she said, they're scared to speak out. It's time people stopped being scared. They either care about their country and our future generations or they don't. It's as simple as that.
And many that do care, they're from a different time when they're no longer young enough. A lot of our most loyal Brits are no longer in their youth.
I wish I was 30 years younger. Yeah.
So if we don't do something, then it would appear that in about 200-300 years, everything we know will not only be gone, people will deny it ever existed.
Yep.
Everything that you love, from thatched cottages to Victorian, Edwardian, Georgian housing, will be in one way, shape or another undermined and replaced. And just imagine every hero you've ever known, they've built their legacy. Imagine not only that legacy's gone, you'll be so unimportant, no one will ever know you was here.
Ask yourself, ladies and gents, what it is you stand for. What are the things that morally stand out to you, and what is it you hold dear? Your villages, towns, cities and nations are places in which all that you love and value call home. As many of us have discovered in our life, a house must be far more than just a house for it to be a home. A nation without borders is like a house without a door. If we value the safety of our families, we must prioritise border security and actively punish traffickers. Ladies like Elie are few and far between, as are men willing to keep a watchful eye on our vulnerable coastline. Information, reality, our safety and our history are at great risk of extinction in front of our eyes. One day not only will all that we know and cherish disappear, if we are not attentive, but it will be as if you, all you have loved and all we ever did, never happened.